Hello, my name
Hello.
is Serena Johnson, and both of you know me from my time at Equality Michigan. I am now the Chief Program Officer at Family Equality, and today I wanted to speak with both of you, get to know you a little bit more, and learn about some of the things that you all do in the local community there. And I do know that this week is Crime Victims' Rights Week, and I understand that both of you work with victims of crime who identify within our community, the LGBTQ plus community. And I want to talk to you both a little bit about your services and what you all do there as well. Genny, can you please introduce yourself first?
Certainly. Hi, I'm Jenny Mays. I am the lead victim advocate at Equality Michigan. I've been there 4 years now and basically work with victims of crime. And I've been a victim advocate per se for 30 years now.
Brooke?
Yeah, so my name is Brooke Lindley. I use she, her pronouns. I am a case manager, and I've been with Equality Michigan for a little over a year. I started in the policy department and I've switched over. I do have a lot of experience working with survivors of sexual violence, as well as families that are impacted by abuse and neglect. And then domestic violence and sexual assault, as well as harassment and discrimination, has been something that I've really been experiencing and serving the community for probably about a decade.
Hmm. Wow, that's wonderful to hear. So at Equality Michigan, you all work daily across the state of Michigan, correct, with victims of crime. Can you, one of you tell me how, especially recently since COVID took place, how have you all been effective in meeting the needs and reaching so many clients across the state?
Well, I can answer that in that it's definitely still statewide. We do a lot of um, video, Zoom, or Google Meets. And it's basically since COVID, things have changed a little bit as far as assisting a victim. You know, before there used to be a safe place for them to go. Being in the pandemic, then it turned into a safety plan where there was a room in the house that was safe for them to go. Things like that. We also have victimization from people who are isolated now, where before they could go into the community, they could go to the community centers. And so it's supporting them throughout, you know, making sure that their needs are met where they are. So it's been difficult because I'm used to face meetings with victims, but you know, we have to use what we have and make sure that, you know, their needs are met.
Mhm. Yes. So I understand that both of you are assigned to two different areas within the state of Michigan, and that's kind of worked for you all pretty well, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
So,
I definitely agree. It's worked well.
okay, good. I'm glad to hear it. So at Family Equality, we actually do have a program. It's called National Network, and that is where we support different communities on their with their goals of developing family groups in their own area. And so kind of what you're talking about, I understand how you all have pretty much in these different communities assisted the communities with building their own connections. Is that kind of what you feel like you do when you go across the state of Michigan?
Yeah, I would say definitely building their own connections, advocating with them, but also having them advocate for themselves. And by building those connections, it's been nice to be able to have a lot of partners in the state of Michigan, because it's been pretty good to be able to provide the victims of violence with a tool belt that they're able to kind of just tap into the resources I will say during COVID, it has been a little bit difficult because a lot of those organizations are either closed or potentially losing funding. So it's been actually kind of a blessing in a way because I've learned more resources, or there's more people who are doing the great work as well that we're able to give to the, to the victims and our clients. And so it's been interesting, but I definitely think that we're able to help them build their community and their sense of support.
Yes, I agree with that. I know when I first started going to Traverse City, a lot of people were like, there's not resources here, there's not a community here. And through meeting with different organizations and doing trainings in different organizations and seeing how they can reach out to the LGBTQ community, they've started to realize that they do have a great support system and they do have the resources that are needed. And even connecting in the small communities to a bigger city has, assisted LGBTQ people that are more in a rural area.
Yeah, so let me back up a little bit because I can tell that both of you have a passion for this work. Would you mind just kind of telling me, both of you, what drew you in to be an advocate and work for our community and families? Brooke, you want to start?
Yeah, so I am part of the community, and I always knew I wanted to work within the community or give back somehow. And so going through college, I realized real quick that I wanted to work in human service and social service. And so I was like, I don't know exactly what to do. So I started working with families of abuse. And that was really what drew me to being able to be an advocate for those who maybe just needed a little bit more support. And then as a survivor of sexual assault, I realized real quick that I wanted to work in violence, because I knew that there were so many resources that people just weren't getting and or seeing or even knew about. Like I myself didn't know about certain resources, or I didn't know where to go. And so I wanted to be that person that people felt safe to come to and talk to, and also be that voice in the community, training organizations on how to provide the best care to LGBT people, and specifically like bi plus people, because I know what that's like as a bi plus person. So that is really what kind of like directed me. But then working in the LGBT community is definitely what continued me wanting to elevate from working at a local LGBT center, now working at a statewide LGBT organization. It's just been an amazing growth for me professionally, but also personally. It's very rewarding, and I will always want to work in this field. And I feel like that's what keeps me going.
Mhm. Thank you.
For me, the story is a little bit different in that I grew up knowing about social services. I grew up in a foster home and saw a lot of different things happening to people in oppressed communities, things like that. And then I started my journey through the Salvation Army as a social worker there in training for the ministry. And then after 12 years of that career, I came out and was told that I needed to get conversion therapy or I needed to leave. And so I left. And I realized that there was a lot of people out there that would deal with the same situations that I dealt with. And so it wasn't long after I left the Salvation Army that I came into and started working in the LGBTQ community. And just, I feel like I don't want anybody to ever go through what I've been through. And if they do go through it, they have the support system that they need, and that being me. But I've always felt that, I have a heart for service. It's important to me that, I'm reaching out. It's important to me to see somebody go from a victim to a survivor is it makes me feel rich. You
Mm.
know, we're never going to get rich in this business, but personally rich. And I feel wealthy in that area.
Thank you. And then Jenny, I also know that you are a parent, you're a mother, you have a family. Um, and so you are also able to, as an advocate and a parent, a mother, you kind of have the expertise to look at what you're doing through both lenses, so as an advocate, but also as a family, and you have a son, and you you have raised him in this community, and I know that you've also made it known to him that um to always just speak out, and I know you all are very proud of, and even him, his name is Gareth, correct?
Correct, Gareth. Yeah.
Yep.
And being a mom, you have to understand being a mom in the LGBTQ community. And then after the death of my partner, being a single mom
Uh-huh.
in the LGBT community, and being a single mom to a Black child in the LGBTQ community. My son is a very strong advocate at 16. One of his friends is transgender youth that was getting bullied in his school, and they became friends, and he tries to explain what he knows to people. And so it's teaching people to be allies,
Correct.
um, that educational part, and sometimes, my son comes to me with questions that are hard to answer,
Yes.
but I have to answer them. And especially, that with being a, a, a male,
Hmm.
a Black male in our community, there's questions that come up. And, but and I have a community that's always helped me
That's
with.
what I was gonna say. You have a great support system.
I do, I really do. And so that's very helpful to me when he has questions about the transgender community. And I have a really good friend who's transgender that's more than open and to answer his questions, and questions about um his community, the Black community. And I have friends, and I do, that he can call and ask those questions, because I'm not an expert. And as much as I want to learn about all the different types of communities, especially communities that are oppressed, I don't know it all. And so to have that support system, and I think that even as an advocate, being a part of that support system and pulling those resources in for someone who needs them is
Right.
important.
So you kind of like you have learned to build the best of both worlds. So your knowledge, and then also the support of the community. And also, Brooke, I know you come from you also have a family, and maybe one day you're gonna look to build your family. And so how have you structured your support system?
It's been interesting because I've learned as I'm getting older, like there's certain people that are no longer part of this support that I thought,
Mhm.
because of the structure of my family being with two like women, and just in general, like wanting to have children and what that looks like. I was born intersex, so I have to be on like hormone replacement therapy in order to continue to not only live as a woman, but have certain features and functions. So it's just in general having to look at that, what that looks like, how to even build a family with that. Is that even in the cards, kind of thing. But it's been interesting to navigate, as well as like even my bigger family, having to like sit them down and talk to them about what that looks like and answer all their questions, because they have lots and lots of questions on what
Yeah.
it means to have two mothers in a household, um, and no father. That's always what their go-to is. So just having to answer those questions, and look to support like Genny as well as you, and like a bunch of other people and organizations on all the questions I even have personally too. So it's been good for that.
Yeah. It's definitely a journey, and it's an everyday journey. And I think that that's one thing that you both have excelled in, is just really being able to speak the importance both to your clients and to the community partners about the resources in the community, and even if the resources aren't in the community, where to find them. So I know
Mhm.
you both specifically work with victims of crime, um, and sometimes those resources are not at your traditional location. And so I know, Jenny, you coming from a spiritual background, you've done a lot of work on locating those faith-based practices that are safe and welcoming. Can you speak a little bit about that?
I think that, people are afraid of what they don't know. I mean, that's kind of where that comes in. And being somebody that can go in and say, yeah, and I never want to change anybody's beliefs. I just want to educate them. I don't want to go in and say you're wrong and I'm right. No, that's not what it is. But ultimately, what it is as in that spiritual realm is that we are called to take care of each other. And so getting past or understanding, not necessarily getting past, but understanding the unique situations that might come from the LGBTQ community, taking that into a faith-based organization and training them, but ultimately saying, you're called to this service, and so this service should be for everybody, and just kind of making them aware of how to make that a safe space,
Right.
how to make that comfortable, not just for the people coming in and getting services, not just for LGBTQ or any oppressed community, but also making it comfortable for the workers, to
Mhm.
make them understand that it goes beyond serving people, goes beyond your personal beliefs. Serving people goes to what you're called, what you say you can do, and how you can do it. And so it's like you got to know your personal beliefs, but
Mhm.
then you got to know how to put them over here,
Right.
what you're doing. And I know that Brooke recently has been working with a lot of faith-based communities, and just kind of opening the door by sending information on what EQMI does, hoping to get a call. And you get a call that someone calls you and says, "Hey, I just saw this pamphlet, what it's about," and then being able to just open that conversation. And when I work with faith-based community, that's where I want to start. I just want to have a conversation, with the ultimate goal of being able to be a resource for somebody that comes to me and says, I need this. And also remember that a lot of LGBTQ people have been persecuted by religion. So that first and foremost is something that you have to work on with them, to be able to help them get that resource. Because I have a lot of people that say, "Oh no, I'm not going to go to church," especially during the pandemic. "I'm not going to go to a church to get food." No, no, no. It's don't look at it as a food. Look at it as a service. Look at it, as don't look at it as a church, but look at it as somebody reaching out to you. So it's both ways. It's trying to get both groups to understand each other.
And you mentioned something that I did want to speak briefly about, is that you do provide trainings to different organizations basically all over the state, in regards to just learning competencies and how to best support communities that don't look like your own. And now I understand those trainings are all virtual, but that's good to know that, so not even necessarily only here in Michigan, an organization could reach out to you all from anywhere at this point to request training and technical assistance. And what that looks like normally for you all, I know, is maybe you would need to help a organization or a doctor's office or even a church look over their forms and make sure that they are inclusive and welcoming to everyone. So thank you both for always being open and willing to provide technical assistance to businesses and organizations um, in your area. So I have another question. Um, because you both do, as you stated, work with families and individuals who have been most impacted by oppression. Um, how would you, if there was a group that was forming that is not in the inner city and has not interacted with communities that suffer from oppression, how would you work on engaging or just building an awareness? Because like I said, this is Crime Victims' Rights Week, and so many families live in those beautiful cookie cutter home environments where they really are so removed from communities like the ones that you all work with, that there's really not a level of understanding. So what advice or just awareness would you want for a family who's in, you know, a great environment? What would you want them to know or be aware of in regards to like what you all see on a daily basis? And we're all in the same community, but just some families don't even don't have to see the other side, but you all see it daily. So what would you want them to know?
Well, I can go with that. And I think that really what I want everyone to know is that it doesn't always come from a, it's a learned behavior, this knowledge or their perception of who somebody is. And it's a constant changing that behavior, changing what you grew up with, that implicit bias, which is something that I'm super interested in right now. But it's like just to both have an understanding and come from where you are, be open to learning, be open to, I'm surrounded by a lot of people that I'll say something and they're very open to say, whoa, Jenny, wait a minute, you're kind of standing in your privilege, and explaining it to me so that I can look and go, but it's not a threatening thing, and it's not a, oh, you're wrong. And it's having those kind of conversations. It's being able to say, that is a bias that is not true, but something that you learn. And it's just opening the doors. You have so many people that say, oh, I want racism to stop, but in the next breath they're saying something that they've
Mhm.
heard in the past. And it's like, no, learning new, learning different. And, people are like, oh, I just don't want to be uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. It should be uncomfortable because our behavior is changing and we want to change those behaviors. So when I go to a person that has that cookie cutter house and they want to know what I do, or they want to know more about how they can help, I am very open and honest, but kind.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where, it has to come from.
And
It Go ahead.
would some of your suggestions be like to seek out an equality organization in their area, maybe
Def-
volunteer or donate, or just make yourself
oh,
aware of the things that are going on with
yeah, yeah.
the
I'm
people who
very,
identify as LGBTQ but might be from a marginalized
yeah,
area or community?
I'm very blessed. In this last 4 years, I've been invited into spaces that wouldn't normally be open to me. And one thing that I've learned is I take honor in those invitations, but I also don't invite myself.
Yes.
And that's kind of, um, where we have to go. We have to have a better understanding. I think that, definitely I would say get involved. Oh, well, I want to know. Well, then come get involved. Come and meet real people. There's a lot of hate on transgender. I always say, come and meet my friends.
Mhm.
Come and get to know them, because when they quit being a mystery and they start being a person,
Mhm.
growth will come. So,
Yeah. Brooke, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add, okay, so one thing that I've learned throughout, even just like the last couple of years of wanting to sell my home and move to another one, that I do find myself navigating to areas that I feel safe.
mhm,
So I look for rainbow flags and all that fun stuff. However, I realized through that it's like my own bias that I feel like I need a sense of safety. And I see that if I was on the outside looking in, if somebody moved in front of me, like in front of my house, and put a rainbow flag, and let's say I was not LGBT, I was cisgender straight, I would look at that and be like, what are they doing? Why do they have to have a rainbow flag? And I realized those are the neighborhoods that need the more of awareness, but not ways of like just not knocking down on their door saying, hey, do you know what this rainbow flag means? But more of like what kind of Genny was talking about is going into these areas, these events. Let's say they're doing a community block party, like being invited to that and tabling, providing, public education in a sense, going to the community areas. There is like a community center down the road from me that is primarily POC, because I live in a primarily POC neighborhood. So therefore going into that, because there's been a history that they do shut the door when it comes to an LGBT organization. But if you're volunteering or just even being involved in your neighborhood, they're going to invite you because you're actively involved, and they're going to be like, okay, we respect you as a neighbor, but also you can have whatever you want here at this block party or this organization. So I feel like really it's outreach. Like if you want people to like see that you can also fit in these cookie cutter houses, and that you're not different and you're not an alien, you're a normal person, it's really just be providing that awareness to people that I am just like you. I just maybe am with a woman and not a man, or whatever the scenario is. I feel like that's really what it is. It's just showing people that it's not different or taboo. And I feel like we're doing that a lot, not just with Equality Michigan, but just in general, our society. We're starting to put people like in TV shows. Like I remember growing up, and there wasn't any TV shows that had people that looks like me, or people that were in the same interests of me, sexual orientation wise. So like now we're doing it, and then Equality Michigan's focusing on not only providing the trainings, like you were saying, to businesses that normally probably wouldn't, but also too just in general getting into communities that probably historically don't accept. And I think that's been the biggest turnaround in the last couple of years. I've seen businesses, I mean, yeah, in June, but
Yeah.
still Pride Month is cool. But I've seen businesses that will start putting stuff on their like logo, and I'm like, okay, I didn't even know that they would do that, but they are.
Yeah, well, thank you both for taking the time to speak with me. Again, just out of honor of crime and the victims that, have suffered um, crime and discrimination. I know for you all specifically in the state of Michigan, but also just nationwide. And I think that I'm gonna start to do some of these talks and sessions more often, and I'm sure I'll speak with you both again. But I know that you all see some really hard things, and you hear some hard stories, and I know you also provide court accompaniment and support to the victims within the community across the state of Michigan. So thank you for all that you do. Um, and I have really enjoyed this conversation with both of you. Is there any question I didn't ask or anything that you wanted to say?
Well, I definitely want to say that, in all areas, partner up. Partner up with other organizations, become community partners, take what you have and what you're giving and what they have and what they're giving, and combine that, because you can reach out to more people and help more people, and just do it with the right heart, do it with the right state of mind. We're not trying to get famous, we're trying to help people. And I think that partnering, and explaining to people when you go into a place and you're talking to them and they have the big rainbow flag and all that, that it's more than the rainbow flag, it's an education, and work together to educate each other.
Thank you. All right. Well, it was good speaking with both of you, and we will talk soon. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you for your passion and your dedication to our community.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.